This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Daily Business News for people who make their own decisions. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest business news story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and our favourite business adjacent story. It is a fierce competition. So every week we are joined by a judge to pick a winner, and that judge is our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael, and good morning, Sean. And I understand we're going for a record today in the post-Olympic spirit pre-Paralympics. We're going for speed today, a very condensed version of the weekend edition.
So I have an idea.
Okay.
Adam, I am prepared to concede 1 point to Michael if he doesn't crap on. So you don't get the point till the end, Michael. You don't get the point to the end.
And Sean, is this in your discretion or mine?
I think it's our discretion.
Okay.
Adam,
Joint decision.
Well, you know, I think I might have that point all wrapped up today because I actually want to start today with an apology to listeners who come here for the melodrama. We know they come here for the melodrama. It's just a fact. I'm a little under the weather this morning. And so if you have come here expecting theatre, expecting the melodrama to be at its maximum level, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to deliver. But I will do my best. And you know what? I don't need melodrama.
Good start on the brevity.
I don't need melodrama because I have got some stellar stories. Just the strength and weight of my stories alone will carry me through. Let's get into the bigger story.
But as I generously ceded last week, I'm not doing an economic story for the rest of the year. Just to give you a help. And I'm giving you a plus 1 point. I'm going to tell you the biggest story of the week, though. Ready? It's been a really big week in politics. And because there's so much going on in the business world, maybe it just hasn't got the attention it deserves.
Sounds like a sleeper story then, Sean.
Let's start with the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Minister Bill Shorten has struck a deal with the states and territories to pass Labor's overhaul of the scheme, bringing to an end a months-long standoff over legislation designed to slow the ballooning cost of the program. Basically, they're trying to cut costs by about $14 billion over 4 years. The main change is that it shifts some responsibilities of the scheme's functions to the states. This is a massive story. Pushing the decision over to the states will totally change things. I reckon this is going to be one of the biggest election issues. So it's a sleeper story as well, Michael. But for this week, it's the biggest story. There was also the debate over Gazan refugees coming into Australia, starting to impact the government. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had to confirm that a number of visitor visas granted to Palestinian refugees fleeing Gaza have been cancelled. Now, Labor's granted some 3,000 visitor visas rather than refugee visas, and visitor visas have less stringent security checks. Under fire on that one. A deal was done between this government and the coalition, meaning every state and territory construction division of the CFMEU will soon be in administration. The PM, Anthony Albanese, said the government is working to get gambling reforms right. He's under pressure on that issue as well. There were changes to pornography rules, proposed laws to ban the non-consensual creation and dissemination of deepfake pornography, a real AI issue. They've passed the Senate. There was a pay hike for nearly 2,000 federal politicians. They'll receive an 11% increase, also get stuff like $40,000 in travel allowance. There was also the approval of a big renewables project. Massive week in politics. That, by far, is the biggest story of the week. Michael, over to you. Bit of melodrama, please.
Well, Sean, it was a big week in politics, and I appreciate the fact that you were doing politics for once, because usually you leave that for me, which means that I will instead be doing economics, as I enjoy now. The biggest story this week actually came, I would argue, from an unexpected source.
Interesting.
The Reserve Bank board minutes.
Oh, we haven't spoken about them before, have we? You're right. What
unexpected.
a surprise.
Yes, unexpected. Let me explain why.
Oh, yes, please do.
There shouldn't be any surprises anymore with the RBA. There is more transparency than there has ever been, largely thanks to the media grilling that Governor Michelle Bullock gets after the meetings. The Reserve Bank board minutes should just be a formality. Well, the Reserve Bank shocked us all this week, delivering a set of minutes for the ages. It told us what they really think, and that is that they are seriously worried.
God, I'm loving the emphasis on some of the words here. Keep it going, big fella. Keep it
More
going.
worried than we had been led to believe about inflation and about the strength of the economy. They considered lifting the cash rate to 4.6% from 4.35% because the economy is too hot. Inflation isn't falling as quickly as before. In fact, they were only able to keep rates on hold by committing to holding them there until next year. The RBA is worried about a looming increase in economic growth, an expected rise in household spending because of the stage 3 tax cuts, and the outlook for government spending. But in the end, uncertainty reigns supreme right now. How do we know that? The Reserve Bank board minutes, because the word uncertain was used 13 times.
13 times.
As he holds back the melodrama.
Nobody really knows what's going to happen.
Imagine if he was healthy.
But one thing is looking likely. We're going to have higher rates for a lot longer than previously thought. The economic impact of this story. The economic impact of this story is so large, it's impossible for me to even attempt to quantify it. It is unquantifiable. An impact so significant, it's unable to be perceived with the naked eye. That's how big this story is, the biggest of the week.
I reckon you should stay out of economics, Michael. Just a bit of advice for the future. Go on, Adam.
Well, in the quest to be brief, Sean wins. Yeah, very good, Michael. I really do applaud how you've just you've summoned up the melodrama despite your health challenges. Well done. But this week, I think Sean's nailed it with politics.
You nailed it.
I would add in, Sean, too, a couple of other sort of items on the political agenda. One, the News Media Bargaining Code is also fiercely being debated, and Meta pulling out of funding journalism in this country, and also the tax on those international companies that is still so low. There's so much in politics that can have great impact on our business community. So, Sean, you win.
Nice reading between the lines. Thanks you, Adam.
What a rort. You only won because he added more stories in.
Okay. Michael, move on. Don't be like that.
That was just a token protest. Really, I agree. It was actually a good story.
Okay, you start with a remarkable story, Michael.
There is just one remarkable story this week. There are lesser remarkable stories, but one supreme remarkable story this week, and that is the sheer weight of celebrity.
What's the weight?
I'm loving the weight.
The weight.
Great.
The weight
of celebrity between... Go on.
The sheer weight of celebrity behind Kamala Harris at the Democratic National Convention this week in the US. On paper, this whole convention is really there to officially award her the nomination. But really, it is just a giant pep rally. Because they busted out the star power. Busted it out every single night. They had Barack Obama. They had Michelle Obama. They had Hillary Clinton. They had Bill Clinton. They had Stevie Wonder, Mindy Kaling, John Legend. I know, Adam, you would appreciate kind of musical guests.
I do.
Who's Mindy Kaling?
She's a comedian, an actress. She was from The Office, a bunch of other things.
Who was she in The Office?
Kelly. Remember the girlfriend of Ryan?
Oh, yeah, she's very funny.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah, anyway.
Go on. She's the star. We all know about her, clearly.
Yep.
She's one of the most recognisable people, I reckon, in Hollywood.
Don't be swayed, Michael.
Me.
Back to the story.
I'm not. You know what? She even kind of hosted one whole part of this. Kamala Harris spoke, of course.
Well, that's good.
This is you would expect that, wouldn't you?
Let's turn up for the books.
As did her running mate, Tim Walz.
Did she accept the nomination?
And they rolled out the big guns, indeed, with Oprah.
Whoa.
Oprah.
I can see. I can see.
Yeah,
I'm
indeed.
Out.
Yeah, because she's a registered independent. She has very broad appeal. And the thing is, she knows how to get people fired up. She knows how to get people passionate.
You get a car.
My favourite quote from her, and there were plenty to choose from, a veritable smorgasbord of quotes. She said, "There are people who want you to see our country as a nation of us against them, people who want to scare you, people who want to rule you, people who'd have you believe that books are dangerous and assault rifles are safe." She went on to say some other things. I'm like, kind of powerful. And she's a very impressive speaker. She's certainly got some attention, certainly got my attention. I watched a lot more of this convention this week than I have ever watched in the past. By the end of the week, though, it's almost possible to forget that the week actually started with Joe Biden, that he was the big celebrity on night one, delivering arguably a more powerful address than we've seen from him in a while. He did lose his way during it on one occasion and just kind of completely just kind of drifted off, confirming you suspect that the right decision has been made here. In the end, the stage is now set officially, because she accepted the nomination for Harris v. Trump. It was the curtain raiser for that battle, and it has to be said the Democrats know how to put on a show. It was remarkable in every sense.
The conventions, the Democratic and the Republican conventions, are just fantastic, aren't they? So much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Showbiz at their finest. Well,
with Mindy Kaling and all.
Oh, Mindy, Kalos, good on you. Well. I think that is quite a remarkable story. However, irrelevant to most of the people listening. What has really been relevant to our listeners has been the best investment class over the past 30 years. Some figures were done by Vanguard Australia, reported in the AFR, and it went through the last 30 years of asset classes, local shares, international shares, bonds. The absolute best over 30 years, Wall Street. An investor who put in $10,000 in the S&P 500 on July 1, 1994 would have earned $237,000 by June 30 this year. That's an annual rate of return of 11.1% compound, more than 2,200%. The same $10,000 invested in the local market would have grown to $135,000, making Australian shares the second best performer over 30 years. Plenty has gone on in that time. Asian economic crisis.com, boom and bust, terror attacks. I'm ignoring you, Michael. We've had the GFC, debt crisis, the collapse of Lehman Brothers, COVID-19, inflation, recessions, unemployment spikes, etc. Next best on the list was international shares, then Aussie property, bonds and cash. All of these asset classes outperformed inflation. What's remarkable? Well, the run of Wall Street is truly remarkable. We're not just talking about what's happened in the last couple of years with the big, magnificent 7 tech stocks. Throughout 30 years, it has outperformed everything. It's also remarkable because it shows that the rules of investing work. They show that the risk-reward scenario for investors does play out. You take higher risk over the longer term, you get a higher reward. Kind of Wall Street might be slightly the exception because you'd say international shares generally, but Wall Street, I suppose, is part of international shares. I was a little in awe of this data when I saw it. Truly remarkable. Adam.
It is remarkable. Absolutely so. I'm going to have to give this one to Michael. I think it's an example of looking back at asset classes versus looking forward to the leadership of the world's biggest economy. And I think that one this week, and just the spectacle of the Democratic Convention, I think that just has to win this week.
Also, Adam, his story was much more remarkable than mine.
There's also that.
Wow. All right, 1-1. A quick break and we'll be back with a sleeper story. Sean, we're looking for a sleeper story of the week now. A sleeper is a story that's not getting the attention that it deserves. It's flying under the radar. Or it's going to be a bigger story further down the track, which might perhaps relate to my story. What's yours?
It's been a while since there's been good news from the shopping mall owners, buffeted by COVID-19, the surge in online retailing, more recently higher interest rates, cost of living crisis. But this week, 2 of the biggest mall owners have provided some really good news. Vicinity, which owns Chadstone in Melbourne, Queen Victoria Building in Sydney, said occupancy rates are back to their highest level since before the pandemic. In some CBD malls, including Emporium Melbourne, rates are 99.6%. That's actually better than pre-pandemic rates. Same with the QVB in Sydney. The Melbourne CBD was among the most affected by COVID, so the news is very encouraging, not just for Vicinity, but all the smaller retailers and coffee shops in the city. Scentre Group then came out. It owns the Westfield malls in Australia, 42 of those. Its occupancy rate is now up to 99.3%. The property giants are also now able to increase rents, sign longer-term leases, both important variables for the bottom line. Revaluations of property are still hurting earnings, though nowhere near as much as some of the other commercial property players. It just seems the sleeper part, the shopping mall, is back. It's fought off all those other nasties like online shopping and things like that, and it's back. Now, having said that, the results from some of the retailers have been mixed at best. A bunch like Beacon Lighting, Reject Shop, Collins Foods, Super Retail Group, Babcorp, KMD Brands, Baby Bunting, they've been hit by inflation in operating costs and earnings have been just a bit disappointing. However, some, Baby Bunting is an example of Super Retail, have actually said things this financial year are better. Now, maybe it's the July 1 tax cuts. I mean, we all got that extra money. Maybe we just went out and spent it, even though there were those reports a few months back that 80% would be saved. Not so sure. It's difficult to tell exactly what's going on. But the gist of this thing being a sleeper story is that bricks and mortar shopping is back. Michael.
I love the passion in back just then.
Back. I also think I got like 13 stories into one.
I did start counting and I lost.
Yeah, lost. Yeah.
I lost count. Might have been around the same time that I nodded off briefly. It was, sorry, that seems unkind. It's a good story. It is a good story. My sleeper story, though, is on a whole nother level.
Oh,
it is arguably.
You can feel him stretching, can't you?
You can. You're flexing.
Limbering up just a wee bit. It is hard to believe, arguably, that a $40 billion project could be a sleeper story.
True.
I know. I've got form in this space of trying to pass off really big stories as sleepers. On occasion, I've also been known just to pick the wrong story altogether. But today is different. Today is a sleeper story for the future because, yes, while it is a $40 billion project, it's more what it represents for the future of our exports, for the future of our economy. That's what makes this a prime sleeper story. Sun Cable is Australia's biggest renewables project. It has now won environmental approvals from the Albanese government, from the Northern Territory government, and it is big. It is slated to produce enough power for 3 million homes. 3 million homes. It'll be
how many homes?
3 million homes.
Homes.
It'll be the biggest solar farm in Australia. 12,000 hectares in the Northern Territory. But get this. There will be an 800-kilometre transmission line to Darwin and an undersea cable stretching more than 4,000 kilometres to Singapore.
Bring it home, big fella. Bring it home.
4,000 kilometres. That is staggering. Now, you are feigning enthusiasm here, Sean, but I can see.
No. I'm not even feigning. I'm asking category relevancy. Sleeper versus remarkable. But go on, bring it in.
Why is this a sleeper story?
Tell us, Michael.
I will. This is a big story. It is a huge story. It is remarkable. All of those things. But that 4,000 kilometres of undersea cable is the key here. Because what we are seeing right now is the genesis of a major new export industry for Australia. We've got plenty of sun. We've got plenty of space for solar farms. Connect us up to the rest of the world, and we are sitting on a gold mine of renewable energy as an export, and that is the sleeper part here, because this will become a much, much, much bigger story further down the track. And it's very, very exciting. Not just the possibilities, not just the impact on the economy, not just the fact that this is private money building vital infrastructure for our energy transition, but because for once, I have nailed the sleeper story.
God, I'm exhausted listening. Listening.
Oh, God, I'm really giving it something today.
You are really, and look, it's a shame that you're not being melodramatic today. Because if you could bring that into it and really bring it home.
Yeah, this is a bit dialed back.
Positively sullen, Michael. Sean wins on Sleeper Story of the Week. Shopping.
Sorry, what?
Shopping mall centres.
Only on category.
Yeah. Shopping mall centres doing a good job while retailers are in these levels of challenge, I think is really, really interesting and a sleeper story. Michael, yours is absolutely remarkable, as you said. It's a big story. I just don't know that it qualifies as sleeper. So I'm giving this one to Sean.
But it's the beginning of a new era. It's going to become a bigger story further down the track.
Maybe,
That's why I mentioned that criteria multiple times.
A few times.
Oh.
Never to labour a point, though.
No. Let's get on to our favourite story.
All right, you go first on this one.
Righto.
I need to lick my wounds for a moment.
Hoons. As you are licking your hoons, let me tell you about my favourite story. Now, it does totally show my bias, perhaps dull bias, but Adam, that could work towards you, in terms of business being interesting, right? My favourite story came from the insurers, from Suncorp in particular. Read an insurer's earnings report and you actually find out what's going on in the world. So often business is kind of up their ivory tower stuff. Well, you read a Suncorp report, you really understand, and it's cool. Suncorp owns brands Amy and GIO, among others. It basically came out more that premiums are on the rise, especially in the housing sector. What I really enjoyed was reading the reasons why premiums are going to rise and how they reflect society. For example, the abundance of water pipes in homes nowadays is causing many problems. People now have 3 or 4 bathrooms rather than 1 or 2. Households love fridges that dispense ice and chilled water. Now, we did a renovation. My absolute favourite thing in our renovated house is our fridge because I've got the chilled water, the chilled ice. It's fantastic. Anyway, I'm part of the problem here because lower quality piping used in construction isn't lasting as long. Put that with the fact that you've got so many more bathrooms, you've got the fridges, suddenly they're leaking more. Also, the houses we build are much more open plan. So a leak in the kitchen quickly flows to other rooms. Then there's the issue of how close homes are being built to each other. So damage in one house more likely to result in damage to the neighbours. Then there's like households nowadays are more likely to own lithium batteries. That has increased the fire risk. So same deal at IAG. It came out, said premiums would rise. It's surging costs of tradies to repair homes, along with car parts and mechanics pushing up prices. That's why premiums are rising at IAG. When customers make claims to fix houses, IAG has to pay out a lot more for subcontractors. There's a whole issue in Victoria where much of the construction workforce is unionised under the CFMEU. Labour costs in that state rose by 18% in the past year, while costs of building materials like paint and plaster were much higher as well. All these costs are going to be passed through over the next 12 months as insurance contracts are renewed. Why it's my favourite story is this is business explaining what's going on in the world and how all these little changes made at a council level or an individual level about having the cooler fridge or at a state level, how that's actually impacting, in this case, big business, and that's being passed back to us. It's just a great case study. My favourite story of the week. Not boring at all, was it, Adam?
Not for me.
No, it was fantastic. Michael? What was your favourite story?
It was a whale of a story.
A whale of the story. And can I just say at this point, because the brevity has been so good, I know it sounds like it's 2-1 to me, but you get that brevity point, Michael.
Oh,
so
you're not even going to keep it in hand until he says this one? Because he's not finished yet. All right, Michael.
I know.
Bonus point is yours.
That's true. 2-2. Coming down to this, Michael.
Bring it home, big fella. Here we go.
Come on. You can do it.
Is that self-talk?
Get out of bed. You're sick bed. Yeah, I think so.
Bring it home,
Third
big
person.
fella.
Did I say that out loud?
You did.
Yeah.
The fever's got to me.
It would have been worse if he said, "Bring it home, squirrel."
I do actually. This could be one of my favourite stories of all time because it is just so controversial and everyone has an opinion on it. And Sean, you told us about this one this week, so well done to you for finding it. The new money-saving trend out of the US is charging guests to attend your wedding. And look, I get it. I understand. Weddings are expensive. The average cost of a wedding and the ceremony and the reception, etc., in the US last year was $35,000 US, up $5,000 from the previous year. It's pretty pricey. Yeah, when you consider that the average annual income in the US is $59,000. But everything about this particular story this week was just extraordinary. It is no wonder that this made the headlines. For one thing, this couple, Nova and Remo are their names, weren't just having an ordinary wedding. It was none of this $35,000 rubbish for them. That is peasant stuff. Nova and Remo were quoted a minimum of $150,000 for their wedding. And so they did what any normal person would do in this situation. They decided to kind of just scale things back and just do the essentials. No, wrong. They decided to charge their guests to come to the wedding. Nova's reasoning, this is what she said. She said, people choose to go to a Beyonce concert because they know they're going to have an experience. Let's put the stress on the guests and let's sell tickets for a wedding.
Excellent option.
Yep. Some of the guests just flat out refused. One of them actually told her, who do you guys think you are, Jay-Z and Beyonce? So that kind of backfired. But people still came. There were 60 tickets sold out of a potential guest list of 350 people. Each guest paid $333, which secured them a place on a double-decker bus, which took them on a 12-hour adventure in New York City. Now, because I value investigative journalism in the name of fear and greed.
You went?
Yes. I've expensed a ticket back to Fear and Greed, Adam. I hope you didn't mind. I did a little digging to see what they got for the $150K. It's quite extraordinary. They have set up a TikTok account to highlight all of these things, as you can imagine. That double-decker bus was fully customized for them. It is fully wrapped in their pictures. Nova and Remo's faces all over the side.
No.
It has QR codes on the side so that anyone seeing the bus can go past, can scan and follow them and just keep in touch with all of the wedding updates.
It's like an OnlyFans page.
It is.
Is it, Sean?
Right, Sean.
I'll take your word for that.
Seems an odd thing to drop in there. What are you thinking about? They had sound meditation on the bus for their guests. That was on video update number 7.
Dull.
They had all kinds of other treats, a lot of different little special experiences. They shut down 5th Avenue in Manhattan so they could have their first dance in the middle of the street.
That's cool.
No wonder this thing cost a bomb.
$333. I'd pay.
You would pay for that?
Yeah, totally.
I wouldn't. It may be the new trend, treating your wedding as an experience, selling tickets to it. Personally, I think it's a little bit tacky. I think it's a bit gross. I wouldn't go.
Just a little.
Sean?
I would.
You would? Adam,
Totally.
Where do you land on this one?
No way.
Yeah. See, everyone has an opinion. This is why it's such a good story. Weddings, I'll mention this, Adam, weddings are big business in Australia. It's a $4 billion industry here.
Bring it back to the criteria.
That's right. So this story has everything. Economic impact and all that other stuff. Favourite story of the week.
Okay. And all that other stuff. Look, Michael, you've got your bonus point. So we came into this 2-2. Even. Yeah. Sean wins.
That's made my day.
Look, and this is very much my subjective bias, right? But I just think that's awful, charging people to have a wedding. I guess I should applaud the innovation of it, test the market, see who wants to do this sort of stuff.
Entrepreneurialism.
You know what it is, Adam? It's wedding reform. It's wedding reform.
That's it. You idiot, good. Michael. You should have used that word.
Oh. Maybe I should do a count back. Wedding reform.
No. The decision's final. It's been to the bunker.
All right, so where do we end up? 3-2.
3-2 out of 4.
Yeah, okay, so 3-2. And on the scores, Sean 92, Michael 88.
That's your lucky. Landslide. It's a landslide.
That was a landslide. To be honest, it's actually closer than I was expecting. I thought I was going to be in the 70s. So you know what? I'm going to claim that as a win. Thank you very much, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Sean, and thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Michael.
Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great weekend.